Hey folks, let's dive right into the simple ELVEN palace drawing. This is the perfect landmark icon that you could use for your next Dungeons & Dragons fantasy map. I'm starting with pencil and a ruler, and I'm just laying out the guidelines for my ELVEN palace, starting with the base, the top of the walls, and my towers. And I'm just laying these marks out so I can keep everything symmetrical and even. And then I'm starting to sketch out a basic shape of the roof. But with ELVEN design in mind, I want to make sure that this palace looks elegant. So for the tower roof, I'm actually gonna go for a little bit of a concave peak, bowing inwards up towards the top. And again, just adding in some guidelines so I could keep the roof of the tower and the base of the tower nice and centered. Then from there, I also make these tower walls concaved in a little bit as well. So they bow in and then expand back out towards the top of the tower. Now let's add in our palace gate. So I'm just gonna add in these guidelines right here that we're gonna build off of. And instead of just a flat top to my gate or an arch top, went with more of a triangular pointed top to keep things kind of angular as well. I'm also adding in just a simple balcony to these towers, and again, the slightly concaved tower roof. Now that we're done the city walls and the towers for now, let's fill in this palace with some structures. Again, keeping in mind the elegance of an ELVEN palace when designing this. Cathedrals with large arc windows. Some more towers with concave pointed peaks. Different leveled structures around this palace to keep it dynamic. And to do that, I'm just adding different shaped structures at different heights, but with similar cohesive elements to it. Again, it's that concave peaked roof. And for these ones, I'm adding in these tiered rooftops. I think they look kind of interesting and they go along with that ELVEN aesthetic. And then I just had this interesting idea to tie in that concave triangular roof shape by adding those elements into the base of these walls. Just some sort of foundational structure that looks interesting and ties design elements together. Now let's finalize it by tracing over our pencil with pen. And because it's such tiny work, I'm using a fine point tip pen, going along slow and carefully, following my pencil lines, but also making any small adjustments where I need to, as well as using a ruler to assist me with any straight lines. I'd rather take that little bit of extra time to get a straight line than risk getting some weird wobbly line that's gonna mess it all up. Because when we move on to pen, there's really no going back, except to start all over again. So here we go. I'm gonna fly through this and ink it in, keeping in mind penciled areas that I do not want to cross with my pen. So I'm moving slowly and taking into account my next moves, because some of these guidelines I do not want to ink in. For example, these double-tiered rooftops. I want the bottom roof to go up and under, so I only really want that top point. Now let's erase our pencil and guideline work to see what we're really dealing with here. And then I just want to add in some simple line work to add some dimension to this. And there we go, we've got a small ELVEN palace icon. That's a perfect landmark for any fantasy map. But let's add in a little bit of a surrounding forest to finish this off. If you haven't seen it already, I've got a full tutorial video on how to draw all sorts of trees and forests, from simple designs to advanced designs, and based on all sorts of different geography and terrains. Check it out. I'm just penciling in what comes to mind. And for this palace, I'm thinking full deciduous trees with some brush and bushes scattered around. And once I'm happy with that, I'm going to trace over it in ink. And then to wrap this all up, let's add in a bit of texture, starting with some grass. And I'm just putting that around the base of the trunks of some of these trees and bushes. But then I'm also doing a little bit of dot work to add some texture into the palace. And I'm only really doing the right side. That also kind of makes it look like it could be some sort of shading as well. But with that, I'd say we're done. We've got a nice, simple looking elven palace icon that a beginning artist or someone interested in drawing that could follow along and get something pretty close to this. All right, until next time.